Well, she is generous, she's kind, she supports her friends, she's a craftivist, she's a designer, she's amazing, and she may be one of the busiest people I've ever heard of in my whole life. And I'm gonna try stitching like her this week. So, who am I talking about? Of course, the amazing Michelle Bendy of Bendy Stitchy Designs. She has a floss tube that I will link below that you can follow. And this is another episode of Stitching Like a Floss Tuber. So, you heard me mention she's a craftivist, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means a little bit later. But before I dive into how I'm going to stitch like her, I thought I'd show you some designs of hers that I have already stitched. So this is Chatterbroth that I stitched. This was part of a big release of different tea-related patterns using trainway silks, I believe, threadway silks. This was really fun to stitch. I really enjoyed it. It's so different. And then another one I've done by her is this one right here. It says Disrupt the System. And another one I've stitched from her was a special release for Forbidden Fiber Co. This is Memento Mori. It says Memento Mori on one side and Memento Vivere on the other. And I loved this. This came with special threads that you use to stitch it. I loved this one. And then I also have stitched this one, which was part of the release that the Stitchers Collective did for Earth Day, I think last year. And this says, "The Earth is a fine place and worth fighting for" by Ernest Hemingway. This was great. And the first pattern that I think I ever stitched was this one, this Alice in Wonderland themed one. We're all mad here. I don't know if you can see how sparkly the fabric is, but I felt like it really went nicely. So those are some of Michelle's designs. She has a huge variety of designs to choose from. She does sell some PDFs on her own website, and you can find her at local stitchy shops and online stitchy shops as well. So highly recommend stitching her designs. But now let's get into how am I going to stitch like Michelle? What makes Michelle a unique stitcher that makes me want to try stitching like her? So let's review how I stitch. First of all, I stitch a variety of patterns, although very often lately they feature a cat. So a cat pattern. On 16 count Aida that I always use, I typically use a 24 size Peacemaker needle, and I use DMC thread usually. So how is this different from Michelle, and what makes Michelle unique? So Michelle stitches on a variety of different patterns, but often her patterns that she chooses to stitch support her friends in some way, or they support a cause that she finds as important. She uses a variety of fabrics. She'll stitch on Aida, she'll stitch on even weave, she'll stitch on linen. She is not picky about her fabrics. She'll stitch on anything. Thread she uses, she usually re-kits up her patterns from her Floss Monster, which is her big gigantic binder clip full of overdyed flosses. She also really loves Cosmo threads. She introduced me to Cosmo threads. She's a self-professed needle heathen, so she'll use any kind of needle. Doesn't matter to her. And she usually either stitches in hand or she'll use a nerd hoop or something like that. She does both. So how will I stitch like Michelle? So first of all, I'm going to choose a fabric that I feel comfortable with, that I feel like goes with the pattern and the colors of the pattern I'm going to be doing. I'm going to try to choose either overdyed threads or Cosmo threads to do the pattern with. I don't have a huge selection of overdyed threads. I don't have a floss monster. But I'm going to try and either choose overdyed or Cosmo to stitch with. And I'm going to use whatever needle I have available to me from one of my needle tubes. I'm not going to go for my Peacemaker specifically. So it might be a needle from a kit that I had. It might be a Pat Carson needle. I'm going to get out my tube of needles, and the only thing I'll really look for is the size of the needle to be the right size for the fabric, to be able to stitch. So, what am I going to be stitching and why? So, as I mentioned earlier, Michelle to me is a craftivist. I don't know if she says she's a craftivist, but to me she is. And a craftivist is somebody who uses their craft to speak out to causes that are important to them, and stand up for what they believe in. And Michelle has a lot of beliefs, and she's not afraid to say what she believes in, who she supports, why she supports them, why she thinks things are important, and she puts that into her crafting. So there's been something that's been on my mind from the recent news of the world, that has been weighing heavily on my shoulders. I don't speak out politically. Even in my family, I don't speak out. I usually keep my thoughts to myself, and try and support things in my own way by making donations to charities or different movements that I feel I support. But for this particular project, I will definitely tell you what my thought process was for choosing this design. The Stitchers Collective did a release just recently. I think it started April 1st, of 21 designs, and the theme was Stitchers for Peace. And there's my puppy. He sneezed. Bless you, puppy. So Stitchers for Peace, and a variety of different designers got together, and what you had to do was make a donation to Doctors Without Borders to show them your receipt and get the collection of PDF charts. So I chose one of those charts to do for this craft, and I made sure the one that I chose was a friend of Michelle's, but it's also the one I wanted to stitch the most. So it happened to work out really nicely, which makes me think it was meant to be. So what I'm going to be stitching for this project is Heal by Stitchy Pros, who is Holly Freeman. She's a good friend of Michelle's. They share a room at Nashville Needlework Market. And this feels really meaningful to me because the world feels a little torn apart, and I feel like everybody could use a little healing. So this is important to me, and I'm going to be stitching on this week. So it's a friend of Michelle. It's got a cause that it stands up for. It's a beautiful design by Holly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kit this up today. And I'll show you what I use to kit it up. You can see there's not very many colors, so hopefully I'll have some luck with my threads. And I'll find a fabric that I like to use with the colors of the design. And I'll show you what I choose. And then I'm going to stitch on this week. Now, another thing to know about Michelle is that she does do FFOs. She'll even do live streams where she FFOs things. And she was the person that inspired my Stitchy scrapbook because she has a stitch journal that she fully finishes small projects into. And it's beautiful. And so she inspired my Stitchy scrapbook. She encourages you to finish things in the way that you want to, that is either easy for you to do or however you want to do it. So I am not sure if I want to make this into a pillow or if I want to put it in my scrapbook. I'm going to see how I feel about it when I'm done with it. But my goal is for this week to stitch it and fully finish it by the end of the week, to stitch like Michelle. The other thing we're going to do is that if you watch Michelle or know Michelle, she has in the last several months become very interested in tarot, and I happen to have a tarot deck, the Light Seers Tarot, and I thought we could pick a tarot card to kind of get a message about this particular project that we're going to be working on for the week, a theme for it. So I'm going to shuffle the cards. I'm going to think about this project, think about Michelle, and choose a card from the deck. If you're not familiar with tarot, that's okay. I'm going to look up the definition of the card, and I'm going to pick the one I feel drawn to. Okay, so I got the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups. Let's look that up. Comes with a little book that tells you about the different suits and the different cards in the suits. So the Knight of Cups, in this one, the Light Seer keywords are a classic romantic, a passionate soul, artistic tendencies, creativity, wearing your heart on your sleeve, seeking connection, being in love with the idea of love, chivalry. The things that stand out to me about this card for this project are a passionate soul. Michelle is a passionate soul. If you watch her, you know that she's passionate about her family, about her friends, about the things that she stands up for. Artistic tendencies and creativity, of course, that comes into play when we're talking about doing this creative craft that we do. And Michelle is extremely artistic and creative with her designs. And I feel creative when I'm stitching, choosing the fabrics, choosing the threads. I feel creative. So wearing your heart on your sleeve comes up, and that stands out to me because part of me was a little nervous to make this video and share with you my chart that I picked and the reason I chose it. Because it's hard for me to put out there things that I'm thinking about, that are on my mind. And then seeking connection, and that to me is what I do here with these videos, is I seek connection with you. So I thank you so much for watching and so much for joining me. I'm hoping this will be a good week and that we'll be able to get this project finished and fully finished. And I want to give you a heads up that Michelle is the originator of Sprinkling Stitchy Kindness. She used to end all her videos by sprinkling stitchy kindness. She has done probably a million giveaways on her channel. And so there will be a giveaway at the end of this video. So stay tuned for that and you will have a chance to win, well, there'll be charts, but I will show you the charts at the end of the video. So let's get started with kitting up the project and I'll show you what I choose to do with this project. Okay, so I have first a bag of Cosmo threads in a variety of colors. I have some Cottage Garden threads in some colors. I have very few Threadworks threads. And then this bin is all of my non-DMC threads. And I have most of my hand-dyed ones on this side of the case. So if you see from the chart, Holly calls for DMC. There's a black, there's white, there's a red, and there's a green. So it's only 4 colors. I don't know how many overdyes I actually have in the available colors. So I'm gonna pull out what I have. I have this green by Coloring Cotton. It's a silk. And I have this red, Rudolph's Nose, also by Coloring Cotton. This is a cotton. So I have those that are the right colors. I really don't see anything else in here that would work. Yeah, nothing else that looks about right. So, if I want to try doing a variegated green, this green is close to the green in the chart, but it's variegated. But this is the Threadworks green. I don't think any of the other Threadworks would be useful. In the Cosmo bag, let's see. I have a variety of reds. Yeah, I have the most choices of red here. This doesn't look right. This could be good. This could be good. This isn't bright enough. And the greens are good in the Cosmo. Let's see, I have these greens. This one sort of looks spot on. Although this one's not bad either. So we'll put that aside. And then I need a white and a black. This is, do these, I don't know if Cosmo has a name for their colors. I don't see a name for the color on this one. It just says 171A. This is not white. It's like a very pale gray. But depending on the fabric, it could look white. So I'm going to put this aside just in case. If worst comes to worst, I will use DMC white and black because who really has over-dyed white and black? And then in the Cottage Garden threads, I have this red, which is really nice. It's variegated though. Oh, this one's not. This is kind of bright though. I'm not sure. I'm going to put that aside. This could work for the black. This is called Hearth. This could work for the black. I'm excited about that one. And then the only green really is this, and this is not the right color green. So let's put those away. I may need to pull out regular white. Can I use that for the black? I wish I could ask you guys what you think. These color and cotton threads I've used before, and they are so nice to use. I feel like this red is too dark, and this red is a little too dark. These are very similar reds. They're just slightly different shades. I feel like this one's a little too pink, so I'm gonna put that aside and leave these two as my final two red decisions. Let's look at the green. I am a fan of this variegated one. I don't know if variegated's okay. This color in cotton has some variegation to it. It also looks a little light. The Cosmos look a little bit closer. This dark one looks closer to the chart to me. So I'm going to put this aside. And I'm going to put this aside. This has the dark green in it. But none of the rest of these look particularly variegated, so it might be weird to have the variegated green when I don't have any other, like, real variegations. So let's go with the Cosmo green. And what about this white? It might depend on the fabric, if that's white enough to be the white, or maybe I'll just pull the DMC white. I'm not sure about that. Let's look at some fabrics. So I figured I would probably want to use, I pulled my neutrals bin. This is my bin where I keep my neutral fabrics. The chart uses something that looks like a light tan. It's almost peachy. So let's see. This is Legacy by, I believe, Picture This Plus. This one's nice. This is, let's see what this is. This is Dusty Road by Seraphim Fabrics. Let's see. I don't know if this is too dark. This has that peachy, it's called Brick by Fiber on a Whim. These are all 16 count Aida, by the way. That's a possibility. I definitely want the white to stand out because that's so prominent with the dove. So I want to choose something that will contrast nicely with the white. forgot to measure. I have to see what size I need. This is a nice fabric too. I don't have a lot of it though. It's Dragon Dust by Seraphim. I know it's not a big chart, but okay, so those are our choices for fabric. Let's do a floss toss on here with the ones here. Let me move this aside. Okay, so this is the Dragon Dust by Seraphim. Okay. This is the Brick, I believe. Brick by Fiber on a Whim. Okay. This is Dusty Road by Seraphim. I don't like the way the white looks on that. It doesn't stand out enough. So that one's a no. And this is the Legacy by Picture This Plus. I don't know, I like the peachier, orangey colors a little better. So out of these two, let's see, I don't have a lot of this Dragon Dust. So I'm gonna have to measure and see if I have as much as I need. I think I probably do, but I'm not sure. I don't know, this might be my favorite. What do you guys think? Send me telepathic messages. The white doesn't look as good on this one, right? All right, so we're gonna go with the Brick. So I'm gonna cut this, measure this and cut this. And then I'm gonna get started stitching on it, and I'm gonna work on it throughout the week. I'll try and give you some updates on how it's going. And then at the end of the week, I'm gonna try and fully finish it, and I will come back and tell you more about the experience and what I got out of stitching for a cause that is important to me, like Michelle usually does. And also what it was like to stitch with the Cosmo Floss, because I've never stitched with Cosmo before. And the Cottage Garden threads I've only used once. So I'm really curious about that. And then, so I will let you know how it all goes, and we'll do the giveaway. And we'll let you know what it's like to stitch like Michelle Bendy. So thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon. Hi everyone. I'm here to do a check-in for my Stitching Like Michelle Bendy Stitchy video. And it's been about a week, like a work week, since I filmed last. I wanted to show you my progress, let you know how it's going. I am not finished, so I am going to continue this to next week. I think I will have more stitching time this weekend, and I will hopefully be able to finish the project this weekend and be able to show it to you fully completed. But this is where I've gotten to so far. I'm really happy with the progress. I was only really able to work on my lunch and dinner breaks at work. So I feel like this is really good progress for that. I use the Cosmo White thread and did the head and the wings of the dove and started on the body. This is starting to get into the body. And I started the border. I went with, I don't know if you remember, but I had not decided between the Cottage Garden thread red and the Cosmo red. I decided on the Cosmo red. I felt like it was a little bit deeper. It's number 800. Or is it that way? I don't know which way it shows correctly in the camera. So I thought it was a little bit deeper, and I just liked it a little bit better for this fabric and for this design. So how do I like stitching with Cosmo thread? Because this is highly recommended by Michelle, and I've never used it before, and I love it. It is smooth. It's got a beautiful sheen to it. It doesn't really knot. I don't feel like I've had very many problems with knotting. I can't think of any that I've had, so it's not a big knotting problem. It's similar to DMC, but just slightly different. Like the sheen, I think the sheen of it is slightly different than DMC. And maybe it's a little smoother, like a little slicker going through the holes. It could be just such a slight variation, but I really enjoy this thread. I feel like my white stitches look pretty even, which sometimes with the white DMC does not happen. So I don't know if that's something that you might want to consider when you're doing white stitching. Maybe try the Cosmo and see if it works out better for you. I'm really happy with this fabric that I chose. The color is just complementing the design to me so well. I really like it. This is my needle that I chose. As we established, Michelle is a needle heathen. So I just chose any plain needle for my stash. So I have no idea where this came from or what kind of needle it is. I think it's a size 24. It looks like a 24, which is what I would normally use on 16 count Aida. I use 24. But the only thing about it, it's been fine stitching with it. It hasn't been hard. It's been basically fine. The only thing is sometimes it squeaks, which is a little annoying. I thought at first it was the thread that was like squeaky thread, but that didn't make sense to me, and I realized it was the needle that was sometimes squeaking. But so maybe I'm a needle snob. I might prefer my peacemakers, but I have no problem using this needle. It's really working fine. So so this is my project so far. I'm hoping to, like I said, be able to finish it this weekend now that I have more free time available, and then see if I can fully finish it into something that makes me feel good about it, and show you where it gets to, and then let you know what it's like to stitch like Michelle Bendy. So that's my progress for now. Thank you so much for staying with me, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, we're back. It's a week later from the last time I updated you, and I have an FO. I finished this project, and I'll be telling you all about the experience of stitching it at the end. But first, I'd like to fully finish it, and I decided to be truly Michelle Bendy Stitchy about finishing it. I'm going to do it in one of my Stitchy scrapbooks. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in this smaller one, or I also now have this bigger one. So I'm just going to see which one it fits better with. But I thought I'd show you some of the materials I have to maybe use on the scrapbook page, and then I will put it together and show you the final product. So of course I have my scissors that I need. I have my double-sided regular Scotch tape and my double-sided fabric tape, which I'll need both of those. I have these gel pens. I will probably use the gold, but I might use the green, I'm not sure, so I have those too. So some embellishments I have these little flowers. I have them in these gray black colors and the white color. I have this ribbon that is like burlap with pearl in it. I have this fabric that is red background with gold flecks throughout. I have these wooden laser cutouts of birds, the dove. I felt like this echoed the dove really well, this one down here. So I have those. I also got the laser cut wood hearts. This feels like a project that could use hearts, but I also just like the color and the look of them. So I might use those. I have this quote. It says, "The future depends on what you do today," by Mahatma Gandhi. And it's green. It's not as dark green as in the chart, but the green and the black kind of go. So I may use this quote on the page. I have two other quotes though. And one of them is, "I was quiet, but I was not blind." And that's by Jane Austen. I felt like this really applied to me for this particular project. And then the other one that I picked out is, "It isn't what we say or think that defines us, but what we do." And that's also by Jane Austen. That also feels appropriate for this project. So I'm not sure if I'll use a quote and which quote I would use. I don't know if I'll use these, but I have these like watercolor stickers. The red ones I was feeling like might go with the coloring. I'm not sure if I'll use those. I have these stickers. I particularly like this one. It reminds me of the wood cutouts, but it's just a sticker. So this is the one that really was standing out to me on here. I have two washi tapes that I'm considering using. This red one goes really well, I think, with the project. And then this is like a burlap background with gold dots. I thought if I used the fabric with the gold dots would go really well. And then lastly, I have this package of scrap paper. I don't know if you can see inside the package, but there's this dark deep red that I really like, and there's a dark green, and there's even like a gray black in the bottom. So I may use these scraps of fabric, of paper. I'm sorry, did I say they were fabric? It's paper. It's a paper pack. So I may use this. These are nice textures too. They're not really like flat paper, they're textured. So those are my things that I'm going to be working with to make my scrapbook page, and I will show you the finished product when it's done. All right, we'll see you in a little while. Okay, so we've come to the end of the video. I have officially stitched like Michelle Bendy Stitchy. Let me show you how the project turned out. So I decided to do it in the large scrapbook, and this is what it ended up looking like. Here, let me show you far away, and I'll give you a little more of a close-up. So I used the 2 Jane Austen quotes, the black flowers, the woodcut hearts and doves, the paper, and a little bit of washi tape. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I feel like colors really complement the design. So, what was it like to stitch like Michelle Bendy Stitchy? So, I think one of the greatest parts of stitching like Michelle Bendy Stitchy was this feeling of stitching something that is meaningful in a way that makes you feel like the things that are in your heart, the things that you're thinking about in your mind, the things that you're passionate about, the things that maybe you see in the world, you get to stitch them out and do something creative with your craft that also has some sort of greater meaning. And I think also stitching something that your friends do would also be extremely inspirational. So while I stitched Michelle's friend, Holly from Stitchy Pros, for this project, I could see why you would want to stitch your friends' projects. It's very inspirational. And it's nice to support your friends, and it's nice to support causes that are important to you. So what did I think of the materials and the stitching process? So I wound up using the Cottage Garden Threads Hearth for the black. And the Cosmo, I ended up using 171A for the white, 4905 for the green, and 800 for the red. The threads were extremely great to stitch on. But what I think is actually really the most clever thing about Michelle's approach to choosing overdyed threads or Cosmo threads is that she chooses what she has on hand to do her project. And that is a really cost-effective way to stitch, which is really nice. I think it's fun to experience different kinds of threads. So you get a sense of like what you really like in a thread, what makes a thread good to you. You also get a different kind of color palette that you might not have seen before. If you like DMC, like I do, DMC is a great thread, but it is fun to branch out and see what else is out there. So if you have things on hand, try doing a little bit of a switch. Don't be afraid to switch out your stash for the called for something you have in your stash. The other thing that was really great about the way Michelle stitches is that she is open to stitching on any kind of fabric. This was really great for me because I got to stitch on a fabric that was in my comfort zone. I stitched on 16 count Aida, which is what I love to stitch on. I got to choose a color that I felt like fit the pattern really well. And I think that Michelle being open to stitching on even weave and linen and Aida makes the stitching process more versatile. So as I've been doing this series of trying different stitchers' approaches to stitching, I've stitched on some fabrics that I was uncomfortable with, but wound up enjoying. So I think the fact that with Michelle's stitching style, that you could try so many different fabrics and not be locked into just one would be really great for your experience of stitching and open so many doors to you. I stitched in the Nerd hoop, which I'm sure you saw. Michelle stitches both in hand and with the Nerd hoop. I find the Nerd Hoop very comfortable to stitch with. It's easy to hold. This size is nice and light. This is the number 2 165 millimeter. So this one I think is very nice and light to hold. It was perfect for the size of this chart. I could fit the whole chart in. I like being able to use a hoop because I typically stitch in a hoop. So this was a comfortable way for me to stitch. Holly's chart was fantastic. I highly recommend her projects, her designs. Stitchy Pros again is her design company. So the chart was easy to read. It was clear symbols. I marked it up with a highlighter. It was easy to mark up. So I really liked Holly's chart. The FFOing, I was inspired originally by Michelle to do FFOing of smaller projects into, she calls it a journal, but I have been doing scrapbooks. And so you may have seen some of my previous scrapbook finishes in my smaller scrapbook. I just got this bigger one, this 12 by 12 one for some bigger projects. And I think what's really nice about FFOing into a Stitchy scrapbook is that number one, you get to be really creative. If you enjoy feeling artistic, if you enjoy collage, it's a really satisfying way to finish a project. Also, it's easy. You don't have to know how to sew. You don't have to know how to finish perfectly. It's really not a difficult way to finish. So you actually get a fully finished object, and your piece isn't sitting in a box under your bed, just, you know, waiting and sitting there. It's actually being able to be displayed and shown in any way that you want. So I think Michelle's idea to do that was brilliant. And if you haven't tried it, there are so many ways to try something similar to doing this, even if you don't want to do a whole scrapbook or a whole journal. Just give it a try. And a lot of my materials came from Dollar Tree. You don't have to spend a lot of money on materials for embellishments or anything like that. So I highly recommend the FFOing. So stitching like Michelle Bendy Stitchy was really fun, very therapeutic, made me feel good inside. My stitching always makes me feel good, but this made me feel good in a way that was a little bit greater than just creating a nice project. It felt like I was connecting to a greater cause. So really enjoyed it. And now, as I mentioned way in the beginning, Michelle was one of the first people I saw who sprinkled Stitchy kindness and did giveaways on her channel. So we're gonna do a giveaway. And since of course Michelle always supports her friends, we're gonna do some things that support Michelle and her friends. So I'm gonna give away 3 charts. So there'll be 3 winners, 1 for each chart. And you'll just enter the word of the chart that I show you, that I tell you to enter in the comments below. You can enter for any or all, but you can only win 1, of course. And so we're gonna start with a chart that's new from Stitchy Pros. This is Holly. This is the designer that I stitched for this project. This is her new chart. It's called Cardinal's Promise. And what it says is, When you see a cardinal, know this promise is true. I am never far away and I'm always here with you. This was really popular. So if you haven't gotten this yet and you had your eye on it, enter to win this one and say cardinal in the comments below. The next one is Michelle's friend Deanna of Darling and Whimsy Designs. She's famous for her quirky quakers, and this sloth is one of her newer ones. So if you would like to stitch a quirky quaker, if you haven't, you really should. They are so fun to stitch. Enter to win this by putting the word sloth in the comments below. And lastly, I couldn't have a giveaway for a stitch like Michelle Bendy Stitchy without one of Michelle Bendy Stitchy designs. So this is a Bendy Stitchy design. It's called Pocketbook Peacocks. And all you have to say is peacock to enter to win this one. So I will be drawing the winners. I want to give you some time to do this. So I'm going to do it at the end of May. I'll draw the winners at the end of May, and I'll make sure that the title of the video says giveaway winners in it. And of course I will contact the winner directly through a comment on your comment. So thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed spending this time with you and doing this stitching project, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.